5090. That's why HFO is here. It's 5090. It's 5090.
Good evening all. So, as you probably noticed in those opening credits, I've been busy editing, and my goodness me, I look tired in some of that early footage. That was back when I was on my other meds and was failing to sleep. Ryako Music, good evening. She says, you cut a new video. Well, I kind of just dropped other bits of video in the video I'd already got, but it was fun, and I thought it's a little bit more entertaining, and it shows a bit more of what the sort of shambolic mayhem that goes on in here is really like. So good evening. It's Sunday, it's the 9th of August 2020. The temperature's dropping in here. It's only 30 degrees Celsius in here. Last night when I finished working on a track, sorry, yeah, Ryako Music says, can you turn up your mic? I had it moved out of the way. How's that? Better? So, last night when I finished working on a track, it was 36 degrees Celsius in here, and I hadn't noticed. And for those of you who do not do new money, let's look at what 36 Celsius is. In old money, it is 96.8 Fahrenheit. So it's pretty much body temperature, and it felt like it. I was a little bit tired when I'd finished last night, so I will probably flag. Mr. Knights, firstly, hi there, and hope you're well. Second, happy late birthday's on Tuesday, mate. So I am still in my 50s. I am not 60 until Tuesday. But yes, that's going to be interesting. But anyway, good evening all. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Housekeeping. If you're following me on Twitch, thank you very much. If you're not following me on Twitch, please follow me on Twitch. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. Please click the little like, thumbs up icon, not the one next to it. And if you wish, please click on the little bell icon to be subscribed and notified of when my next live stream or upload takes place. Array of Emotions, good evening. The gang's arriving slowly and slowly. The French Dog, hello. I'm glad to see you are now a 5090 competitor participant. It's good fun, and I hope you're enjoying yourself. I think you will enjoy yourself a lot. And judging by your music, which completely kicked butt, I must say, I think you're going to fit in very well. So, 5090 progresses. I am currently working on my 20th track. We'll cover a bit of that in a moment, but there are things afoot in form of 5090, because next weekend, on Friday and Saturday, it is Form Stock, which would usually take place in physical space somewhere in the United States, and Formers or February album writing month participants and 50/90ers from all over the world would go, and there'd basically be a sort of open mic for a couple of days and everybody would get to know each other and hang out and everything else. I've never been, but I know quite a few formers who have, and they all have a whale of a time. And judging by the recordings, videos, photographs and social media posts, so did they. So COVID-19's pretty much buggered that. So it's all moved online. So things kick off 1 p.m. Pacific time on Friday, August the 14th, with Amanda Rose Riley. And basically do not stop until 5 p.m. Pacific time, which is 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, in fact, they've got an hour, so whoever it is will finish at 2 o'clock in the morning GMT, which is 3 o'clock in the morning British summertime. So, busy, busy weekend. Yours truly has been given a slot. I was very flattered to be asked, and after umming and ahhing about it for an evening, I thought, yeah, hell, why not? So, on Saturday, August the 15th he looks at the schedule carefully so he doesn't get it wrong, 3 p.m. Pacific, that's 6 p.m. Eastern, and that's 11 p.m. British summertime, and sorry Riako, and sorry Array of Emotions, midnight Central European time. Yours truly will be doing another one of these. And what I will attempt to do is write a song from scratch in 60 minutes. So that's going to be next Saturday. So I will keep you up to date. I'll let you know if there's any changes on Thursday. But if not, please join me here on Twitch on this channel on Saturday at 11 p.m. British summertime, or whatever your local currency makes it. And I'll be writing and recording songs. And yes, I will probably end up recording vocals, so you can all sit there and laugh, because me and vocals, even with a box of Melodyne up there on the shelf, Mel says you're going to skirmish it. Absolutely. And you know me, I do not do skirmishes. I do not do sit in front of a mic and play something. I do not do less than 16 tracks in a production. Or at least that was the case until this week, because I've been chatting on the 50/90 forums with another 50/90er called Used to Know. And thank you for the feedback. Glad you enjoyed what you've seen of the streams. But he made a very useful and important point, which is I'm sitting here surrounded by significant amount of musical gear, and as I've said in the early streams in this series, that's unusual. And I know that most 50/90ers don't have access to this sort of level of kit, don't have an array of basses and guitars and synthesizers and old motor horns and stylophones and cowbells. Well, you probably have cowbells, I'll give you that. So he said, well, why don't you just strip it right back to basics and just make a track with an acoustic guitar and an SM57 and get this, leave Ableton switched off, just use Audacity. So I did that a long time ago, and I was this afternoon, after reading his posts, I was going, can that be done? I thought to myself. So this afternoon I sat down and I did it, and I was rather surprised to put together an entire song in Audacity from scratch with no VSTs, no DAW, no Melodyne, no effects, well, I used Audacity's compression and a bit of EQ at the end from within Audacity. But that was it. And it's like, yeah, this is going to work. So next Sunday's 5090 show is going to be me talking you through how to make a multi-track song in Audacity. Basically use Audacity as a full-on DAW rather than just cutting and editing and the very, very basics. And I was actually surprised you can get decent results just with Audacity. Audacity, if you're not aware of it, and I appreciate some people aren't, is open source software. In other words, it's free, and you can, I'll put the URL for downloading it on the stream subtitles when I put this up on YouTube. It is cross-platform. There's a version of it for Macintosh, there's a version of it for Windows, and I believe there's a version of it for Linux. And why don't I just go to the website, then you can see what the URL is. Although it's fairly easy to remember. M. Night said Audacity is very underrated. To be honest, I still use Audacity for trimming and tagging and metadataing every track that I upload to 5019 form. So check it out. It's audacityteam.org. Free, open source, cross-platform audio software. And yes, it is available on GNU and Linux and other operating systems. What other operating systems are those, I wonder? So you can even download the source and compile it to your platform of choice. Oh, I see. So yeah, legacy Mac, legacy Windows. So loads and loads of different operating systems that you can use Audacity with. Download Audacity by clicking on the button, and oh dear, so one of the development team has died. Oh, that's a shame. Bit of a drama. Yes, there's the basic package. There are also a bunch of plugins like special effects and stuff. Not only that, Audacity works with VSTs. So the same plugins that you'll hear us talking about in Ableton and Reaper and Logic and all the rest. So it is quite powerful. So if I turn that window off, just turn Ableton off. Ooh, that's blown the surprise, hasn't it? Okay, so here's Audacity on my machine. I can literally hit record and go, hello, 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 and stop, playback, hello, 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 hello. That's how easy it is to record stuff in Audacity. Not only that, but, and this is important for stuff, I don't want the stuff at the beginning, so literally select it, hit delete, and it goes away. Hello, 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 hello. How cool is that? So what we'll do next week is we'll build on Audacity skills. And the French Doe says, I used Audacity before to create MP3 sagas. Very nice for editing. It's, yeah, I love the editing too. And you can zoom in and out to your heart's content. Look at that. You can really see the individual waveforms. But enough of this. So next Saturday, I'm going to create a song from scratch using Ableton. Next Sunday, I'm going to create a song from scratch using Audacity and a Shure SM57 microphone. You'll notice a bit of a theme developing there, which is writing songs. I'm still behind the curve on 5090. I should have had 20 songs written by now. This is song number 20, and it's coming along, but it's not finished yet. Every summer, I try writing a song that sounds like Steely Dan. That is my dream. I wish I was Donald Fagen, but I'm not. So I try to write a song that sounds like Steely Dan, and this is this year's attempt. So I kind of like that. Ryako Music says it's chill but interesting, and that's kind of the Steely Dan way. Of course, it's all going to fall to pieces when I try and sing like Donald Fagen, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I'm not doing it tonight. it's too hot. As I say, 36 degrees in here was ridiculous, and it was just too hot to sleep yesterday. The UK is in the middle of a heat wave, and my phone keeps pinging to tell me that it's warning me of possible thunderstorms, basically from midnight tonight until midnight on Thursday morning. So I will probably get the Tascam DR40 out ready on its little tripod and stick it on the windowsill so I can record some more thunder. Rick Music says, I'm sweating and praying for rain. I was actually surprised last night because I wasn't sweating when it was 36 degrees in here. And that kind of worried me because I think I probably hadn't been drinking enough yesterday. So I was probably dehydrated. I had another dreadful night's sleep, but that's one of the things. M. Nice says, can you modulate the intensity of the instruments in the Spitfire library? Oh, yes. Not only can you modulate the intensity has multiple dimensions. If I call up the interface, so this is what we got. This is the tenor trombones. So you can have reverb, either from 0 to, let's solo them and get them playing. So on the left here you've got expression, which is how much gusto they put into the piece. So I can slide that right down from 100%, which makes it pretty much disappear. So they're barely playing. But you also have dynamics, which is how they move from note to note. So if I rack that down, you also have selections of different ways of, or different styles of playing for some instruments. On the core versions and the professional versions, you get even more instruments, so you have a great string of them. But on the free version, you just get playing long notes, or if I go back and play the same thing, staccatissimo. So let's switch. So there are, yeah, nice is putting it mildly. It is absolutely glorious. It has completely changed the way I make music, because it just allows me to go, string section, I know that's what this needs. I mean, the Korg behind me there with the little light up glowy screen is pretty good at strings and things, so I've got a full orchestra and stuff on it. Let me just play a few notes. So that's how I got my sax solo. So as you can hear, it's velocity sensitive and it's sensitive to aftertouch as well. And that says, what about the sound texture? And I guess the harder you play the wind instruments, the more the timbre changes. Yes, it does. Not by much. And that's because the whole orchestra VST runs at no more than 260 megs. The full version is 660 gigabytes of data. If you haven't got a very good internet connection, they will sell it you on a solid state drive, and I think that would probably be the best way of doing it. I'm kicking stuff over again. So it's hot here too, plus head first only, all that heat generated from the gear. Oh gosh, yes. I have actually got a fan blowing at me from just outside the studio, and that is helping. It has taken the edge off the heat. So Ryaka Music says, I think of all the orchestral instruments, brass sounds are the most difficult to get right. Yeah, I kind of agree with you, and on that, most of the brass is actually the Korg rather than the brass section of the BBC Symphony Orchestra. The trumpets sound a bit synthetic to me. The horns are nice, but if you've got cornets and French horns in Steely Dan, I'm not aware of it, so I haven't been using them. I find it hard to space them into their own places. I guess no stacked samples. Yeah, that's how they cut things down. And the other thing they cut down is there are no round robins, which is when you play multiple notes the same note. On the more expensive versions, it will actually have up to 8 samples of each note, and it will switch from one to the next, so it doesn't just sound like somebody hitting a sample, repeating 19 over and over again. So yes, it's getting there, I think. I haven't decided. I haven't even written the lyrics yet, so I'm going to sleep on that. And that is one of the things that I tend to do with the bigger pieces rather than the Audacity one, which, in fact, let me just show you. No, I won't show you the Audacity one. We'll leave that for next week because I'm getting sidetracked, and I want to try and keep this fairly short this evening because 30 degrees Celsius. So let me just save my Ableton set. There we go. I can turn off me push. And we will go to the main feature of tonight's programme. So Thursday's show was about writer's block, about getting through that block when you just can't do anything. Tonight I'm going to talk about what happens when you get stuck on a creative plateau. You might be writing stuff, but you might not feel like it's getting any better. And that's something we all go through. It is a very big part of being a musician. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the 5090 Show Guide to Upping Your Game. As always, your mileage may vary. I think I might actually form a prog band with that logo, YMMV. Every time I see it, I think, oh yeah, that wiggly line is quite aesthetically pleasing. But that's just me. I'm a graphics nerd. How much of a graphics nerd am I? Right, complete diversion. I'm going to come out of this. And you remember over the last few weeks, I've been writing a number of songs that were based, if I just go to my profile, I've been writing 4 songs, these 4, Mole Catcher, Frog Juggler, Chicken Whisperer, and Squirrel Matador, that were all based on this photograph. So everybody was going, oh yeah, ha ha ha, very funny. Not me. Me is the sort of person who says, where is that? So at first I looked at that telephone number there which said 0131 3666 666, which I would guess is a fake telephone number. But 0131 was Edinburgh. So for the first week or so, I thought, oh yeah, it must be Edinburgh. But I wasn't satisfied with knowing it was in Edinburgh. So I thought, I'll have a bit of a delve, which led me to this area of the photograph down here. A, it says Cedar Court Hotel, but B, there is an advert for a gentleman called Jonathan Thurston, whoever he may be, I do not know. Array of Emotion says, you basically played GeoGuessr. I absolutely did. I played Geo Detective because I knew it was UK because that's a UK traffic light. I've got a Cedar Court Hotel there. So I went looking on Google for Cedar Court hotels. And where did I end up? My phone's just heard me say the word beginning with G that refers to a search engine and thought I was talking to her. So I'm sitting here wondering, where's that female voice coming from? Here we go. Look. The traffic light actually has the little cable ties on it from earlier tranches of notices clipped to it. And there's the Cedar Court Hotel. No Stephen Thurston advert, but it's pretty obvious that's the place. And if I scroll out, it's in Wakefield in Yorkshire. Yes, this is the unusual version of Wakefield that is upside down. Anyway, you get the idea. So, there we have it. Getting inspiration is sometimes a struggle. Ryako Music says, I think you should drive there and replace all the cool sounds they took down. Or indeed, add more of my own. So what do I mean by upping your game? I mean not so much the writer's block or the creative block. I mean getting past being stuck in a rut. I mean always doing the same thing. I mean feeling that you're not getting any better at the instrument you're playing or the vocals that you're singing. I mean getting stuck in bad habits. By bad habits, I might mean mine is profound, and one that I'm terrible for following is just using 1/4/5 blues progressions in songs rather than trying anything new. You may have different bad habits. You know, you may cheat at playing guitar and only play one note at a time and then string them together in your DAW. Hey, I'm not judging. You may have an inability to focus or be profoundly vulnerable to going off on sidetracks. At my last job, we had a saying which people would employ when the conversation got sidetracked or diverted that arose from the dogs in the Pixar movie Up. People would just shout, "Squirrel!" which meant, yes, okay, we're diverging from the agreed content, so let's get back on topic. An inability to focus or just fear of change. The French Doge says inability to focus. I know that very well. I've got some solutions, or at least helpful suggestions for fixing this lot. So first of all, getting stuck in that rut. How do you get out of a rut? Shake things up. That's what people tell you, which is A, glib, and B, not in the least helpful. So what causes that rut? One of the biggest things for me that causes my ruts is that I listen to my inner critic, which basically tells me, don't do that. You don't know how to do that. Just stick with what you know. Don't take risks. Don't branch out. Don't switch genres. Just do what you know how to do, because you'll get all the results that you always used to get, and you'll be happy, and you won't improve or anything like that, but at least you'll know that you can do that. Telling your inner critic to shut up and taking risks and doing stuff that your inner critic might sit on your shoulder and stare at you pointedly and say, "You're mad." That's the sort of thing you want to be doing. So wind up your inner critic or just ignore them completely. Shake things up. How about swapping genres? And again, we're back to the BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover package, because up until I heard about this package in the middle of, January, February, and filled out the questionnaire, it's free. You fill out the questionnaire on the Spitfire Audio site, and 2 weeks later, they enable a download for you in the Spitfire Audio app. And you want to install the Spitfire Audio app because that gives you access to the Labs series of virtual instruments. So we'll cover Labs when I finish this little session, because I have news. There are new instruments in Labs. But we'll cover that in a minute. So, swap genres. I've started playing with orchestral compositions and orchestral scorings because I've got a free symphony orchestra to play with. You may already be doing orchestral scoring, in which case, make a punk song. Do a less than 3 minute song. 5090 and February Album Writing Month are perfect for doing things like this because they set you challenges. You can set them yourself, but you will tend to set challenges that you feel comfortable with. Whereas on 5090, you will get set challenges that maybe you think, I have no idea what I'm going to do for this. And it says, I suffered with schizophrenia and that was particularly hard to overcome. But over time, once you learn to ignore the things holding you back, it really helps, whether it's music or general life. Yeah. I've suffered from depression for more than 3 decades, and some days you literally do not want to get out of bed. Mel says she's bipolar too, so she's a rapid cycler. We all have our issues which are likely to get in the way, and you've got to be cognizant of those issues if you've got them. But take it from me, take it from Mel, it doesn't stop you being creative. In fact, you can, in some cases, harness that creativity. I can focus on something and I'll sit down for 6 hours and not think anything of it. And there you go, Mel says also it can help you. The focus on, this is one of the reasons my arm's in a brace, is playing guitar for 6 hours solid is probably not good for your limbs. Anyway, set yourself challenges or allow others to set your challenges. Work with others, collaborate, join a band, take lessons, go to a jam night, do an open mic, do things that you wouldn't contemplate doing in normal day-to-day musical activities. And one I like is do some research, do some reading, watch YouTube videos. There are some very instructive YouTube videos out there. I have a number of favourite YouTube channels that I go and watch. Things like That Pedal Show, which introduces new electronic pedals and effects pedals for musical instruments. And that's run by Dan and Mick, who run Gig Rig, who are a pedal board configuration company based just down the road from me in Swindon. So that's worth watching. The Isotope series are worth watching. They're now doing a Headroom podcast which interviews people. The latest person that they're interviewing, the episode came out a couple of days ago, is Tony Visconti, the record producer who was responsible for producing David Bowie's Berlin albums. Podcasts, there are tons of good podcasts out there. One that I'm really going to recommend you subscribe to is Attention Engineer. That's Attention Engineer from Penfriend, which is Bristol's Laura Kidd. And Laura's a mate, and her interviews with fellow musicians are a delight. And they're long and extensive, so they usually last about an hour. but they go into the ins and outs of the creative process, the songwriting process, and stuff like this, getting out of the rut. So do your research, listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, read books. Read books is always good advice. Getting to the next level. You're not happy with what you're doing. You're not happy with your skills. You're always doing the same thing. You can't get better at what you're doing. Why not? Main thing, and it's something I've been horrendously guilty of over the years, is that if I pick up a guitar, I will just noodle. In other words, I'll play the things that I always play on the guitar. I won't try anything different. Ryako Music says, try listening to a genre of music you've never heard and find what you like about it. Couldn't agree more. That's sage advice. And the older I get, the more into more varieties and genres of music. There are good programs on the web, on the radio, out there. But Radio 3 in the UK and online and streaming has a show late at night called Late Junction. That's really worth listening to. Don't noodle. So instead, what you're going to do, it's called deliberate practice. In other words, when you sit down to play an instrument, have a goal in mind. Yes, we're on to goal setting. I'm talking about maybe you want to develop the ability to do sweep picking, something that I've never been able to do, and I've got various instructional videos, and I've just never made the time to sit down and say, today I'm going to learn sweep picking. So maybe once 5090 is over, I'll spend a few days actually doing that, so I can bewilder you with my elite metal guitar god skills. But deliberate practice, set a goal, set a target, focus on something very, very small. Focus on the minutiae. Focus on just one thing, and then do that until it improves. There you go. Pick just one thing and work on it, and research it. Again, watch YouTube videos, watch television programs on it. And I can't emphasize this enough. Find a teacher, find somebody who already knows this stuff. Get them to teach you. You know, pay for lessons if you need to in these days of COVID-19, so you're not limited geographically for teachers. I've got friends who are very, very competent musicians who offer lessons on Skype and Zoom and whatever else. Find a teacher. Find a local jam session when our mad COVID social distancing rules have been eased somewhat. I think we can forget that one for the moment. I think we can also forget join a band for the moment. But I learnt so much when I was in a band, because I was working in music that wasn't the music that I'd written, and I was having to play styles and pieces of music that I wasn't familiar with. So it was a case of practicing, learning, and developing my ear. Ryako Music says whenever that will happen. Yeah. You just got to hone your skills indoors so that you're ready. When that jam session starts up again, you'll be ready to blow them off the stage. So breaking bad habits. Know why you're playing and singing. Don't just pick up the guitar or switch on your keyboard and just always play the same bit of the same song that you always play when you pick up that instrument. Be aware of your performance. And one of the bullets on here is to record yourself playing or singing or speaking, preferably video on your phone, so you can focus on what your performance looks like to somebody else, what your performance sounds like to somebody else. Because you might think you've got perfect timing, you might think you've got perfect pitch, and you might think you're in rhythm with the backing track to the performance that you're playing along with. Other people might disagree. Listen critically to recordings of yourself. Identify areas of improvement. Identify things that you need to improve. Identify where your performance is lacking. I know it's being a bit brutal, but you've got to be kind of brutal on yourself if you want to fix problems with your art. Because the only way you'll improve is if you identify those problems and acknowledge that those problems even exist. I've been in bands with artists who really didn't get that perhaps they needed to work on the way they work with the rest of the band. Step outside your comfort zone. Yes, acknowledging problems is uncomfortable, but you will improve once you acknowledge those problems and push yourself to do stuff to remedy those problems. And we're back to different genres as well. Breaking bad habits can also be done by switching genres, by taking a break from playing guitar, finding a new instrument to play or a new symphony orchestra to program. Because when you come back, your perspective on your original instrument will have changed. Ryako Music says, be uncomfortable. That's exactly it. Put yourself into situations musically that you really don't want to be a part of. And I don't mean, join a horrendous band just because they're the only band in the area. I mean, do things that you think you might not be capable of doing. If you crash and burn, you crash and burn. But my goodness me, you'll learn a lot. But odds are you'll actually make a fairly decent job of it. And you will have learned, if nothing else, that your perception of your skill level is actually less than your actual skill level. And at this point, quick side note, Dunning-Kruger, the Dunning-Kruger effect, where absolute beginners rate their own abilities far more highly than they actually are, should also be borne in mind if you are an absolute beginner. You probably need to get a few thousand hours in before offering advice to those other people in the nice band that let you join, because you will probably make a fool of yourself. There's a very nice Dunning-Kruger video on YouTube by John Cleese, and I'll say no more than that, but just Google Dunning-Kruger John Cleese and watch it. It's less than a minute and it's hilarious. Be patient. I talked about thousands of hours then. We're back to Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers, where he said the people who were absolute masters of their art were the people who put in at least 10,000 hours of focused and directed practice. Now, as it turns out, the guy who did the original study that came up with the figure of 10,000 hours said, well, I think you'll find it's a bit more complicated than that, because some people can get to the point of mastery in a couple of thousand hours. Others, it might take 20,000 hours. But the point is, if you don't put the hours in, you are not going to improve. And being patient about that improvement happening is important, because if you're not patient, you're going to get frustrated. And if you get frustrated, you're going to give up. And if you give up, you're not going to improve. So there's a lot of mindset involved in this. Goal setting. Set yourself deadlines. Say that you're going to do something by a certain date. Stick to a schedule. If you're going to practice, make sure you're going to practice a certain number of hours a week. If you're going to write songs, make sure you're going to write a certain number of songs a week. Set yourself a target for maybe, writing 50 songs in the 90 days between July the 4th and October the 1st. Yep, 50, 90 and February album writing month are one of the best ways I have ever experienced
of upping your game as a musician, taking part, setting yourself a deadline to write a song every 2-3 days, sticking to that schedule, being consistent, putting the hours in, aiming for a target, having a target. It's gold dust for improving any skill, not just a musician. Ryako Music says, make a realistic schedule, one that is feasible and allows for rest, because rest is important too. Absolutely. And the idea of February album writing month, in case you don't know, there are 28 days in the regular February. So the goal is you write 14 songs, or roughly the number of songs you'd have on an album. So February album writing month, FAWM, or form. So several of you guys said, yeah, really struggle sharpening, really struggle to maintain focus. It's a cliche, but mindfulness works. What do we mean by mindfulness? Because there are an awful lot of gurus out there practicing what they claim is mindfulness, and it might not actually be. So my definition, and it's one that I've taken from any number of self-help books. Yes, I have actually bought a few of those for me Kindle. Or in my last job, we used to teach people. We used to have to teach people mindfulness for improving skills, in sharpening focus in a business environment. So this translates very well from a business environment to a musical environment, and likewise backwards from a musical environment to a business environment. It's being aware of your own feelings, being aware of what your mind is doing or trying to do at any given moment, and acknowledging that your mind is doing that thing, and in acknowledging it, saying effectively, yeah, I understand, I'm doing that thing again, aren't I? Okay, moving on. And you put it to one side. And if it happens again, you just say, yeah, I'm doing that thing again. And you put it to one side, and you gradually train yourself that when obtrusive thoughts crop up, or when your mind goes down those rabbit holes that you don't want it to go down, have a part of your mind, if you like, in the sort of pilot seat that's monitoring what's going on and reporting back to you and saying, yeah, you're doing that thing again. You're saying a lot. You're saying basically a lot. You're saying a lot. Don't do it. Oh yeah, I am, aren't I? Okay, right, I won't do that. Anybody's mind is full of competing threads of thought. The idea that your consciousness is a single entity is complete bullshit. And the idea of one single voice inside your head, I just find, yeah, that's not how my mind works. The thread of your thoughts is multiple and woven into a tapestry, and you have to acknowledge that fact. And there's not awful lot you can do about it, but in acknowledging what's going on, you can adjust how often those things happen. Back to sharpening your focus. Pomodoro technique. What's that, I hear you ask? Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. And this is another business focus technique that I discovered about 3 or 4 years ago. There is a brand, and they're on the internet. There is a brand of kitchen timer called a Pomodoro timer, which is a plastic tomato, and you wind it as clockwork. So you twist the tomato top and then set the time, and then it runs down and it pings when the 20 minutes is up. Ryako Music says, didn't Mark teach us this? He did. You're absolutely right. I've used it. I've introduced it into a number of companies that I've delivered training to. What's the technique? You buy one of these little Pomodoro egg timers and you put it on your desk, and it's bright orange, bright red, because it's tomato. It's bright red, it's shiny, and it's quite obvious, especially when it's ticking. The idea is you wind it up and you say, I am going to work on this single task for 20 minutes until the Pomodoro timer goes off. You split your day's activities into 20-minute chunks. And if somebody interrupts you, you say, do it when the 20 minutes is up. I'll get back to you then. Because, and as somebody who's worked in educational psychology and business training for best part of 40 years, the research has shown that if you are interrupted in a task, it will take you, on average, 23 minutes to get back to the level of competency that you were at before you were interrupted. 23 frickin' minutes. So, yeah, Ryako Music says any egg timer will do, really. Like, you don't absolutely need the tomato one. Lol. Yeah, but tomatoes. I remember having a tomato ketchup squeezy bottle when I was a kid that was a big plastic tomato. And they used to have them in Wimpy bars, but you could buy them. And I always wonder where that went. Ryako Music says, I have a cat one. There you are. See? Squirty tomato. How did we... Squirrel. We've been sidetracked. We're practicing mindfulness. We understand that we have been sidetracked. We acknowledge it. And we return to the subject in hand. Pomodoro technique. Set yourself 20-minute chunks for doing a task. If you haven't finished the chunk at the end of 20 minutes, set yourself another 20 minutes. Simple as that. And this is where we come into these are the points that really have hit home for me over the last 18 months. Speaking as someone who A, has been suffering from depression, B, has got a kidney stone that's 1.3 centimetres long in his left kidney, and C, has a cyst of equal size in his right kidney, and is basically waiting for COVID-19 to bugger off so he can get them sorted out. Health is important to you. It's rather more important to you than you might give it credit to if you're young. As you get older, and I'll be 60 on Tuesday, you tend to realise that health is kind of paramount to anything else that you want to do, because if you don't have your health, doing anything else suddenly becomes a lot more difficult. And number one on that list for me, make sure you get enough sleep. Yeah, all right, this is the guy talking who was still working on music at 1:30 in the morning yesterday. But yesterday it was too hot to sleep. It really was. It's now 29.5 degrees in the studio, so it is cooling down. Make sure you get enough sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, see a doctor. If it's that much of a problem, see a doctor. Take regular exercise. Something else that I am atrocious at doing, although I am better at it than I was. But there again, I'm pretty much not working at the moment. I'm just doing the occasional bit of consultancy working at home. Even that, sitting on your backside in a chair for hours at a stretch is not good for you. So get up and take walks regularly. Buy a step counter. Get your steps up. Set your step target every week. And this one, again, will help you in all of the above. Watch your diet. I stopped buying TV dinner ready meals about 2 years ago now. And within the first 3 months of doing so, lost over 20 pounds. I'm now down. I've lost about 35, 40 pounds since I changed my diet. Array of Emotion says I watch my diet and I'm seeing a lot of chocolate. The kidney stone thing is a bit of an issue for me at the moment because the doctor has basically said, can't eat nuts. Oh, and you can't eat chocolate. And you shouldn't really eat so much meat. So, yeah, my diet's all over the place. I had a Caesar salad today. It was rather nice. Squirrel. Avoid booze. Now, not entirely. If you like a nice glass of wine or an occasional pint, then that's fine. But if you're drinking every day, then you might want to reconsider your alcohol intake. It's something that I've weaned myself off over the last decade or so. But then again, my father is a raging alcoholic and has been since the 1980s. So who knows? Right, now I saw Mr. Knight make a comment earlier on saying reflection is critical. Yes. This is perhaps the biggest thing that is going to help you. Pause and reflect. Whenever you do something, after it's finished, just take 5 minutes, sit and think about what happened. What have you discovered as a result of doing that thing? Allow time for reflection in your musical activities. Allow time for reflection in any other activities of a creative nature or of a business nature. Sit down, think about what you discovered and record the results. Make notes, write things down. I mean, you've seen me with my spiral notebook habit. It's a bit extreme, but I've been running day books for 15 years now, and if there's something that I think, oh, how did I do that? I can go back to those notebooks and find out and do it. And that lets me leverage my learning and my knowledge far more than I would if I'd just sort of gone, yeah, that was cool, and moved on. Because you've got to reactivate knowledge to keep it current, to keep it from fading. There is, and I'm going to put my training hat on, a guy there was a guy at the turn of the last century called Ebbinghaus. And he will go down in history as the discoverer of the Ebbinghaus curve of forgetting. In other words, if you're taught a bunch of stuff and then you don't use it for 6 months, you will have forgotten a fairly significant percentage of it. But if you learn that bunch of stuff and then 2 months later you're reminded of it, or you remind yourself of it, and then 2 months after that you remind yourself again, not only does that curve of forgetting reset, it actually flattens out. It strengthens your recall of the knowledge or the learning that took place. Tip of the hat to Mr. Ebbinghaus. It's all very well taking notes, keeping a journal, running a day book or everything else like that. Read the damn things. If you just have them on a shelf, they aren't going to help you. It's that reactivating of knowledge, of the things that you learned, of making them and maintaining them, keeping them current, that will keep them strong in your head. So, after my little stream comes to its conclusion, you might want to sit down and just grab a notebook. Always have notebooks lying around wherever you are, whether it's writing ideas down for lyrics or making notes to remember to do stuff. Always have multiple notebooks. Always keep one by your bed, because you might have a weird dream that you want to remember, so write it down, because by the time you get around to writing it down later on in the day, it will have disappeared. And Mel says, oh, and if you can, work out your setup so you can just sit down and be ready to work. Absolutely. So what was new to you guys in watching this and hearing me pontificate about this sort of stuff? More to the point, what from all of this can you actually use? And more to the point, if you are going to use it, when are you going to do that? So we're back to setting goals, setting deadlines, have a schedule. Don't just say, oh yeah, that was cool, I'll do that in the future. Because 9 times out of 10, that ain't going to happen. But if you sit down and say, okay, by next week, I am going to have a schedule in place for my musical activities for the next 3 months, then those things are likely to happen a lot more than if you were just going at it half-assed. Is there anything that you've thought of in talking through all this evening that isn't helping you progress? Is there some bad habit that you know you do, or that you have become conscious of doing, that isn't helping you, then when are you going to stop it? By when? Set yourself a goal. Write yourself a notice on the fridge that says you are not to do X this week. M. Knight said, I would like to try the 20 minutes timer. It does work. It not only does splitting a task up into little 20-minute chunks really help get the task done, it also helps you develop metrics. So if somebody asks you to do that task that you've done and you say, oh, right, yeah, that takes 4 Pomodoros, then you can give that person a quote, an accurate quote on when you'll have the work ready. It's almost like sneaking in metrics by the back door, but take notes, say, yeah, okay, my average song takes 10 Pomodoros. Then you've got a way of setting a schedule because you know your work rate. It's really cool. What don't you do enough of? What do you need to do? And one of the things on this, which if you're doing 50/90 or February album writing month, is something that none of us do enough of, and that's listening to other people's stuff and leaving comments on it on the 50/90 site, because we all need to do that as much as possible. Find something you don't do enough of and make it your task in the next week to do more of it. How can you do that? Well, like I say, either set yourself a goal of doing it once or twice a day, or put a notice on the fridge that says, did you do X today? Find little tools and reminders and things that will trigger you into doing something. Habit forming is a really interesting subject. Forming habits, getting something to be part of your daily routine. Research indicate, or the research that I've read as part of being a trainer, is that it takes about 6 weeks of sustained action for something to become a habit that becomes ingrained. Just before you go to work, or just before you have a shower in the mornings, once you've got out of bed, if you want to improve your health, do 10 push-ups or 10 sit-ups, and do that every day for 6 weeks, and it will start to become a habit. Ryaka Music says, I have special songwriting pens. I have special songwriting pens, special songwriting notebooks, special songwriting room, because, yeah, find what works for you. Find those triggers. Find those things that help, that make you feel good about what it is you're trying to do, because that will help you to break your bad habits and develop good ones. Ryaka Music says, give yourself a uniform that helps you get focused. Yeah, you might have a favourite pair of socks or a February album writing month hoodie. You know, wear that. Wear something that makes you feel good. You know, use a pen that makes you feel good. If you've got a favourite pick, and yes, I have a favourite pick, then use that favourite pick. So to sum up, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I went on Quote Investigator because everybody says that that was Albert Einstein. It wasn't. According to Quote Investigator, it actually originated in a branch of Alcoholics Anonymous in Knoxville, Tennessee, back in 1981, and has been misattributed to dozens of different people, but mainly Einstein in the subsequent years. But yeah, if you keep doing what you normally do, nothing's going to change. Yeah, there is conversation on the chat about various what constitutes a uniform, and yes, we'll you, as Mr. Knight says, not in this weather. Yes, very definitely not in this weather. So very good. So there's your Quote Investigator URL if you want to find out the history of that quote. So that's the end of my little diatribe on breaking your bad habits, getting off that plateau, upping your game. So thank you for watching and listening and making comments in the chat. Took me a bit longer than the half hour I'd planned, but yeah, I hope that was useful. Once again, I'll be editing all of this up and it will be on YouTube, edited down with various subtitles and annotations and everything else. Now, during that chat, I talked about labs because I said, oh, yeah, news on labs. So when you install the Spitfire audio application on your desktop, let's go to screen 1 and we'll actually do it. So here we go. Here's the Spitfire audio app. So as you can see, I have one product installed, which is the BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover package. But aside from the My Products tab, there's a tab here called Labs. And there are loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of free virtual instruments that you can download from within this app that will then act as VSTs in your DAW. And they are brilliant. The trumpet fields, I wrote a song called Lock In that has the wonkiest trumpet player ever. It's brilliant. It's purposely awful, and it works brilliantly in the context of some songs. So get yourself your Spitfire Audio app open, go to the Labs tab and install all the things, because there are lots of them. So if I switch me push back on, and we've got a new set here, so let's go into an arrangement view. Let's drop Labs into the first track. So there are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of virtual instruments that you can play. Granular whale song. You're kidding, you say to me. No, I'm not, I say. So here we go. What does granular whale song sound like? M. Knight says, do they all have their own window or do they use a sampler like the Spitfire UI or Contact? Yeah, it's all in one UI. It's just like the Discover package with the same dots and circles. It's very, very swish. I do like the Spitfire Audio UI. And then if you want another one, you just double click it. So, whale song, yeah, okay, limited use. Well, how about amplified cello quartet? And I've used this patch, it's brilliant. So it actually slides up to the note that you play. Bit quiet. Let's turn it up a bit. Yeah, there's lots of Oriental and Eastern sounding patches in here, including locusts. So a very, very strange take on white noise. So basically, grab yourself a copy of the Labs app and have a play. And the reason that I've got this open and mentioned it today is because there's a new one, which is this one, Piano Pads, got released this week. And there are some very, very strange noises on it. Turn off the reverb. So, loads of fun. Go outside and hurry up because it's raining outside. Yeah, locust sounds maybe a bit freaky for some. Ryako says, I wish it were raining right now over here. Yes, same here. It's still 29.5 degrees over here. Nope. So, that's about it for another Sunday evening. I hope that was fun. I hope that helped. If you have any feedback, then drop me a line or just say hi in Facebook or Twitter or anything else, because I'm on all the social medias as Ed First Only. It's something I've developed since the 1990s. So when any platform came out, it's like, oh, let's see if the username Head First Only is taken. All right, I'll take that. And I'm headfirstonly@gmail.com if you want to drop me an email. So please do, or leave a comment in the comments on YouTube or whatever else, or just swing by and say hi. M. Nice says, may I have your Twitter, please? It's Head First Only, strangely enough, as is my SoundCloud, as is my Bandcamp, as is my Facebook, as is my Plurk, as is my Mastodon, as is, you get the idea. Head First Only, all one word, just search, and I'm pretty much the only Head First Only out there, because there are lots of Chris Harrises. Keep that branding consistent. Absolutely. I mean, come on. I've had branded baseball caps since 1990. That's how sad the HFO image is. I have multiple sweatshirts from skiing concerts. That's where the logo and everything else came from. It was a skiing club. M. Nice says, added. Good man. I will follow you back. So, with that, I'm going to bid you good night and go downstairs and gradually melt, because it is it's still 29.5 in here, which is a hell of a lot better than the 36 degrees Celsius it was last night. So good night all. I will see you, I hope, next Thursday with the normal HFO Twitch session. Next Saturday is Formstock, and I'll be on at midnight European time, 11 p.m. BST on Saturday night, making a song from scratch. And then a week today, I'll be making another song from scratch, only this time I'm only going to be using a Shure SM57 and Audacity and a bunch of instruments. So it's going to be fun. So I hope you'll be able to join me. Until then, Stay well, stay safe, and please stay sane. Look after yourselves.